When a music executive was standing in line waiting at an airport security, a woman behind him tried to cut him in line because she thought he was in the wrong place because of his skin color. After posting the encounter on Facebook, the music executive was blown away by the response, prompting him to offer her an apology. Hello, wonderful people. I'm Scott Leffler for WonderBot. And here is Black guy gets hilarious revenge on racist white lady who tried to cut him in line. Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. Emmett stood in line minding his own business as he waited to make his way through airport security. As he waited, he was suddenly interrupted by a rude stranger. Emmett realized she was treating him that way because he was African American, so he quickly responded in a way that drew applause. Emmett's response was almost immediately greeted by cheers from the other people standing in line around him, a sure sign that they agreed with his comeback. That response inspired him to post about the incident and his response on his Facebook account. He could think of a few people he was friends with who would be entertained by his experience standing in line, but he could never have expected what happened next. By the time his plane landed, the post had gone viral. Airports are often not a very pleasant experience, and if you've ever flown, you probably know this. You can lose your luggage and you're constantly being introduced to a new slew of security precautions that seem to get increasingly invasive. Add those discomforts to the reduced hospitality of flying and you'll see that spending time in an airplane is simply not very enjoyable. It's an experience most flyers have to go through, unless of course you pay a little extra, which is what Emmett did. It's no secret that airline companies have been reducing the seat sizes in the economy class on airplanes, and the news has been reporting on it for years. But with a little extra money, you can buy yourself the benefits of first class. Not only do you have the extra space, but you also get priority seating, meaning you get seated first. This greatly reduces the amount of time you have to spend waiting in the security line and the line to board. That was the price that Emmett was willing to pay to be able to fly with less hassle. Emmett wasn't bothering anyone as he stood in line waiting to pass through security to head to his airport gate. And that's when the rude woman started trying to cut in front. Emmett knew he was in the right line. After all, he'd paid extra for the priority seating, so he didn't understand what this woman was doing. He had a feeling, though, that her insistence that he was in the wrong line had to do with him being African American. Emmett's larger build made it more comfortable to sit in the first-class section with the larger seats. Luckily for him, he worked as a music executive and had been successful enough to make enough money to spend a little extra to make flying more comfortable. Maybe the woman had looked at his clothes and thought he didn't look like he was dressed well enough to fly first class. But when he looked at her, he didn't think that she was dressed like she belonged in first class either. Emmett was standing in the security line at the airport that day because he was headed down to the Dominican Republic to celebrate his birthday. He was flying out of Washington, D.C. from the Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. His birthday was the next day, and he was glad to be able to arrange everything to escape town for his birthday. He was so thrilled that when the woman started questioning whether he belonged, it took a while to actually get mad. According to Emmett's post, the woman confronted him about his spot in line by telling him he might be in the wrong line. "Excuse me," the woman allegedly told him, "I believe you may be in the wrong place. You need to let us through. This line is for priority booking." But Emmett didn't move. Instead, he said, "Priority meaning first class, correct?" "Yes," the woman recalled. "Now excuse me, they'll call y'all after we board." Emmett knew he was where he belonged, though, so he pulled out his ticket to show her. Emmett knew he was right, and he wasn't going to leave just because this woman thought she was right. "You can relax, ma'am," Emmett said to the woman as he tried to make it clear that he belonged in that line. He told her that he was where he was supposed to be and that he'd been there longer than her, so she needed to wait behind him. He even showed her his ticket, which he didn't need to do, but he wanted to try to preserve the peace. He thought that would end the conversation, but it had just begun. The woman wasn't done with the situation, though. Instead, she turned to her friend and said, "He must be military or something, but we paid for our seats, so he should still have to wait." Emmett was shocked that rather than believe him, the woman was trying to come up with an explanation for how he had a first-class ticket. He was even more convinced that she couldn't accept his presence because he was African American. Before we see Emmett's response, it's important to understand that being in the military doesn't mean you get first-class tickets for free like this woman was implying. One of the hundreds of comments on Emmett's Facebook post pointed this out. "I'm prior military and I'm offended," the commenter wrote. "Heck, they gave us economy seats," the poster continued, making it clear that being in the military would not explain why Emmett was in that priority seating line. "These racists are bold," the commenter finished. The woman was completely wrong in her belief that being in the military earned members free first-class tickets. People in the military and their family members can fly space available if they want. This means that they can fill in any seats on the plane that the military has chartered. However, this does not mean that they get priority seating, since there are strict rules for who gets what seat based on how badly the military actually needs to get those people to their destination. What's more, this was not a military flight. It was a standard commercial flight. Emmett had to respond to the woman's comment to her companion. "Nope," he said, "too big to be in anybody's military." But he didn't stop there. He went on to tell her that the truth was that he was a black man with money, although he replaced the word black with a common racist epithet, which I'm not going to say. Emmett strongly believed that she only thought he didn't belong because he was African American, and her racist behavior had brought Emmett to the point where he felt like he needed to address her publicly. It's not something he would normally do, but the response he got was great. At first, Emmett was happy that the people around him started clapping when he addressed the woman. They clearly loved the clever remark he had thrown in at the woman who was harassing him. Airports are a place where tolerance is extremely important, especially because you have contact with people from so many cultures. Emmett was put in a very different situation with a woman who was being extremely intolerant, and he wasn't going to take it silently, which earned him praise from people around him. Emmett didn't think he'd get too much of a response when he posted it on Facebook. He figured just a few friends would read it. But in 2 days, the post went viral and had been shared more than 250,000 times. Since then, the number of shares has grown to over 300,000. And there are also hundreds of comments and over 868,000 reactions to the post. Hundreds of people praised Emmett for his response to her racism. "The power of an educated man with patience," wrote one commenter. Another commenter wrote, "Never judge a book by its cover," in reference to Emmett, and they're correct. It's clear from Emmett's experience that you should never judge someone by what they look like. The commenter went on to describe the woman, saying, "She's so ignorant it makes no sense that people like her still exist. Enjoy yourself, you handled it well." Most of the other comments on the post supported Emmett as well. But when Emmett saw the viral response, he wasn't happy. When Emmett landed in the Dominican Republic, his Facebook post had gone viral. None of his other posts had ever gone viral. And while some people may have been thrilled to finally go viral, Emmett was not. He knew that the woman's behavior had been wrong, but he didn't like why the post was going viral. "This racist stuff is definitely an issue, but this is not the solution to that issue," he wrote in a different post on social media. Emmett decided to make a second post, and in this one, he apologized to the woman. "It brings me no joy waking up in paradise," he said in the post, when he knew that he caused another person to go through hell. It didn't make for a great birthday. He also addressed those who called the story fake. "The story was definitely real, just like this issue is definitely real. But I now know that I myself should have handled it another way, or left it how it was and not shared it publicly." Although most of the responses to Emmett's post and experience had been positive and supported his response to the woman, there were some that weren't as positive. Some people even went as far as to send threatening messages to him and his family. "If y'all want to be angry at someone, be angry with me for posting it, and direct your hate to me, and not the ones defending my character to the ignorant ones," he said in a post on Instagram. He later clarified in another post, "As long as the people that are close to me know the real me, that's all that matters." Despite the threats Emmett received, it was clear that the woman who had harassed him received most of the hate. Looking at the comments, it's clear to see why she never came out with an official statement or apology. One of the nicer comments called her an ignoramus, while others made fun of her fried blonde hair. That could be seen in the picture Emmett posted of her with his first post. A lot of the comments, however, were flagged on Facebook for being racist, since they attacked her Caucasian race. Emmett knew when he looked at the responses that things had gone too far. As awful as it is, airport segregation used to be common, especially in southern states. The last airport had integrated by the middle of 1963, but it didn't happen without a fight. One of the very last airports to become integrated actually had to be forced to remain open because the group controlling the airport wanted to close it instead of allowing it to be integrated. As an African American, it was no doubt very difficult for Emmett to ignore this woman when she was clearly making judgments based on the color of his skin. Emmett knew that just because he understood the racial implications of her comment, he didn't mean that the woman understood them. Maybe she'd been rushed and stressed and forgot her manners and wasn't taking into consideration Emmett's race. She also could have been a person who was rude regularly and needed someone to teach her a lesson so she could see how she was impacting other people. If any of those were the case, did she really deserve all the hate she'd received? Of course, she may very well have been a racist. But did Emmett's post on social media help the situation at all? Emmett's original post sought to bring attention to the racist incident, but as it went viral, Emmett says that it was causing more harm. He knew that he had handled the situation well. He didn't need strangers on the internet to validate his behavior. In addition to the hate he and the woman received, some of the people who commented on his post were also harassed by other racists who saw their comments. Those comments had been reported to Facebook, but that didn't change the situation. Emmett had handled the situation in a way that he normally wouldn't have wanted to. Emmett wrote in an Instagram post to address the post. When dealing with people, he wrote, I always try to stay on the side of right. So to make sure I never do anybody wrong, I try to always put myself in that person's shoes and ask how I would feel if that person did this to me. And if I was her this morning, I would be a total wreck today. And that doesn't help the situation or her. It only makes them more angry and brings more drama. Emmett decided to write the next part in all capital letters so that people would get the full force of his message. He wrote, So I would like to apologize again to the woman I had this encounter with yesterday. No matter how wrong your actions, you don't deserve this. He also tagged different people in the post so that the message would hopefully also go viral and reach the woman from his interaction. I believe if you can't help nobody, at the very least, you should never do anything to hurt them, he finished. Emmett even went a step farther and recorded a video the day after the flight to make sure that the woman got his message. Normally, whenever he posted on Facebook, only about 5 or 10 people saw the post. He said he never wanted all the attention that came with the viral post. He had even gone to the Dominican Republic to get away from attention, not to have it follow him. I want to take the time to publicly apologize to the lady in the picture, he posted on his Facebook account. Most people didn't think that Emmett needed to apologize because he'd been in the right. But Emmett wanted to be a positive force, not a negative one. He had every right to shut down the racism that the woman displayed. But it didn't help decrease the amount of racism in the world. In all likelihood, the woman who was completely humiliated most likely would have just disliked him and held a grudge against him. And the comments of hate from the other side didn't do anything to bring people together. Sadly, it appears that what Emmett worried would happen to the woman who harassed him did happen. Emmett has yet to post anything indicating that the woman contacted him to apologize or accept his apology. In the end, the woman probably ended up humiliated and angry. But we can learn something from this lesson. We can look at Emmett's behavior and see that even though he was right in how he handled her obviously racist behavior, if he could go back in time, he wouldn't have embarrassed the woman on Facebook.